Hey guys, it's Tracy here talking about spiritual disciplines. Hope that you all are having a good week. What is my definition of spiritual disciplines? Um, to me, spiritual disciplines are those things or tools that connect us to God. And when we practice those tools or use those tools, we are basically putting our faith into practice, which ultimately help us to have a kingdom view or to see Jesus more clearly, to live our lives to be more like Him in all that we say and do. Inward disciplines are those practices, I guess, that develop our faith personally, that are personal to us, maybe more between us and God. And outward disciplines are those things we bring to the body of Christ, that we bring outward to other people. And corporate disciplines are those things that we do in community with one another in the body of Christ. While the disciplines inward, outward, and corporate are independent, they are not independent of one another. In other words, they take shape in us through prayer, meditation, fasting, and study. These are how Richard Foster in our book Celebration of Discipline sort of divides them up. But these are demonstrated in an outward way through simplicity, solitude, submission, and service. And they ultimately take root and are demonstrated, or as Foster calls it, celebrated corporately in the forms of worship, confession, guidance, and celebration. Foster stressed that the disciplines are not laws and that we need to be very careful to not use them in ways they were not intended and as power or tools that they are not. For example, using them to control or guilt others would be an inappropriate use of the disciplines. How often do you practice them and which ones and not so often? If I were to be honest, many of the disciplines I don't, and I have never practiced. Some of them just make me uncomfortable, or I don't really understand. They kind of don't fit the schematic of how I think I'm wired, at least for right now. That's what I've convinced myself of. But fasting, meditation, and solitude are probably of the least interest to me, and admittedly would probably be the hardest for me. I'm not sure I've ever actually fasted. I've at least tried meditation and solitude, but it is difficult for me to just stop my brain and to be in those moments. On the flip, though, prayer, worship, and service would be among those that I practice regularly and that have played a significant role in my formation thus far. Were you taught or exposed to the practice of disciplines as a young? Nope, I was not taught. I was not exposed. Never heard the words. Did your church make them, or does the church you currently serve make them a priority? I've been at the same church for 20 years, so no, they have not, and we do not make a priority of the disciplines. We encourage worship on Sunday, and we have Sunday morning Bible study / life fellowships. But to be honest, and this may shock some of you, I hardly ever hear the word confession. And our pastor just doesn't really provide, even as a staff member, an example for solitude or meditation. In fact, I told him, I said, you have to go on sabbatical. You've been here 35 years and you've never done it, and you have to set a precedence for all those to come behind you. And he just looked at me and laughed. But as long as I've been there, I don't think I could name 3 people who have fasted in our congregation in all my years there. Maybe it's a Baptist thing. I haven't researched that, but it's just not a practice we have ever taught or encouraged. But we certainly do encourage worship and service. Service is really big in our church. So it's interesting because as we embark on Lent, since the beginning of the year, we've been talking about spiritual disciplines, and we're going to take them one by one or in groups of 2 or 3 throughout the weeks of Lent. So I'm really excited that this class is kind of paralleling that. Hopefully I can learn something to bring to the table for that and come out seeing new light on some of them. Okay, hope you guys have a good week. Talk to you soon.